What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so in a massive turn of events, this is just crazy. I guess Donald Trump finally got tired and wised up to Democrats bludgeoning him over the head with an Epstein bat, just constantly. So he was like, screw it. Hey, Pam Bondi, why don't you look into these Democrats and see if they had any involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? I love it. And Democrats, once again, they're melting down. But, anytime Donald Trump does anything, Donald Trump could look the wrong way. If he's supposed to look over here and he looks that way, they will flip out and lose their ish. As a matter of fact, anything Donald Trump does, they just whinge about everything. It's so fascinating, but Donald Trump actually did it. Check this out. U.S. Justice Department investigates Epstein's alleged ties to Clinton and banks after Trump request. It's not just Clinton, by the way. It's many prominent Democrats. Once again, we always talk about this, and I say this all the time, that every accusation is a confession when it comes to Democrats. So, why would this be any different? When they're sitting there trying to point the finger at Donald Trump on a consistent basis, when they actually collude with journalists to try to smear Donald Trump, they redact names because we already know all that information that had come out the other day. Once again, oversight Democrats release emails that don't say a damn thing. We covered that on the channel. As a matter of fact, they didn't say anything. They were actually kind of cryptic, if you ask me. Like, one of them, for sure, was very cryptic. It's like, what are they even talking about here? What does this mean? Doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't say that Donald Trump did anything bad, once again. But, I just love this, y'all. I love this. So, they're constantly pointing the finger at Donald Trump. So, once again, why not look into them and see if they had any involvement with Epstein and that island? This is absolutely going to go nowhere. I can say that for sure, right? Once again, because most people, they didn't involve themselves with behaviors like this. We'll put it that way. I'm being nice, right? Behavior of that nature. They don't involve themselves with this. And this is not something, right? Once again, the Democrats are pretending that Jeffrey Epstein was just going around to everybody, especially Trump, and being like, hey, I got all these underage girls. You want to come and, do the thing? Like, people don't do that. People know that's illegal. People know that those types of people go to jail for a very long time. These people are not just going to be open with their secrets, for crying out loud. Like, seriously. So they're not going to go around to everybody, hey, you want to come over here to my island and, No, they're not going to just do that. I don't know how these people get together, but it is what it is, folks. They got together. But nothing's going to come of this. This is a massive waste of time. But I love it because you got to, once again, folks, it's like training a dog. Sometimes you have to rub their nose in it. Rub their nose in their own feces, for crying out loud, to get them to stop doing whatever it is they're doing. I just love this, by the way. So fascinating. Let's get into this. The U.S. Justice Department has confirmed it will investigate pedo-financier Jeffrey Epstein's alleged links to major banks and several prominent Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton. I love that. Pedo-financier, huh? I mean, that's kind of what he was. Did he really finance pedoism? Like, that, because that's how they phrase that. That's how they're building the narrative right here, is that he financed. I guess he did, really, if you think about it. But hey, it is what it is. President Donald Trump on Friday said he would ask Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI to look into Epstein's involvement and relationship with Clinton and others to determine what was going on with them and him. Bondi then said on social media that she asked U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton to lead an investigation, adding, the department will pursue this with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people. I love those generic answers, by the way. Those platitudes. It's more like platitudes rather than, statements. A platitude kind of is a statement, but you know what I mean by that. Clinton has strongly denied he had any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Really? Like, once again, folks, you got to watch the language that they use. I think that's a blatant lie. Clinton has strongly denied he had any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Right? They're not putting a time frame on that. Sure, we understand. We can infer what they mean by that, but you know, when you're a fact bringer, when you're giving news, you should not allow for your readers of that news to infer anything. Everything should be absolutely crystal clear, lest you be manipulated, folks. Once again, you got to watch these people, man. Interest in Epstein's relationship was renewed this week after U.S. lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of documents from his estate, including some mentioning Trump. In addition to Clinton, Trump said he asked the Department of Justice to investigate banks J.P. Morgan and Chase, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, who is also a prominent Democratic donor. Epstein was a Democrat, and he is the Democrats' problem, not the Republicans' problem, he wrote on social media. They all know about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run. A spokesperson for J.P. Morgan Chase said the firm regrets any association they had with Epstein and added that the firm did not help him commit his heinous acts. I don't know if that's true. Once again, that's not necessarily the publisher saying that. That is J.P. Morgan saying that, as a matter of fact, but that's probably not true. If Epstein used J.P. Morgan or Chase, either one, hang on just a second. You did assist him, right? Anybody, like the Circle K, the corner store. If Jeffrey Epstein went into the corner store to buy something, you're helping that person. Right? To what degree are you helping that person? That remains to be seen, right? But they did help him with his heinous acts, because if he was using that bank to run his finances through, hang on, he's doing this in the background. He's clearly making money off of this. Did some of that money go through your bank? The answer is probably yes. So yes, they unwittingly helped him out. They are unknowingly, right? Which is kind of the same thing, but you know. It is unclear whether Trump made a formal request or issued a directive to the Justice Department, or if Bondi was responding to his post on Truth's social platform. Does it matter? Doesn't. So that was a complete waste of space. Trump's request comes ahead of the House of Representatives vote next week on whether the Justice Department should release all its files related to the investigation into Epstein, who died in prison in 2019. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Democrats actually stopped that vote from happening. Oh, hang on though. Democrats say Republicans stopped that vote from happening. No, the vote was stopped due to a rule that was cleverly placed into the legislation. So whoever wrote the legislation for the discharge petition or whatever, that's their fault that the vote failed. But hey, it is what it is. That happened this afternoon, I do believe. Democrat Adelicia, I don't know how to pronounce that, Grivalia, swearing in to the chamber on Wednesday triggered the move after she immediately signed a discharge petition from calling for the release of the files. Her signature was the 218th, the final signing needed to trigger a floor vote. 4 Republicans joined with Democrats to call for the vote. Documents released by the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday appeared to show correspondence between Epstein and the former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers from October 2017. So, there you go, folks. This is the manipulation of the corporate press. Okay, so once again, all this information is released by House Oversight Committee, right? And Donald Trump sees this. He gets wind of this and says, hang on, look, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan, blah, 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 blah. All these prominent Democrats and businesses, hang on, they were corresponding with Epstein. How about Pam Bondi investigate this? So then the corporate press takes that and says, oh, Donald Trump is ordering the DOJ. You see how they do that? Then they wait. Once again, this is how they manipulate you. They're trying to make you believe at the beginning of the news article that Donald Trump is orchestrating this investigation into Democrats in the background in a vacuum. All right, but what they're not telling you, and then they go on later to tell you, is that, hang on, the House Oversight Committee released this information, and that's where Donald Trump got his information from. They do this on a constant basis, right? It's so fascinating, y'all, because Donald Trump will say something, like on the campaign trail or just at a press conference, whatever it may be, and he saw the news, like from the day before, and then he'll say something. And then the corporate press will get that and say, well, Donald Trump orchestrated this, blah, blah, blah. He says this and it's fake news, or they'll do whatever they do, however they manipulate whatever it is, because they do all kinds of nonsense. And I'm not going to get into the details of all that, y'all. It's insane. But there you go, folks. Manipulation 101. They give you the main story first, knowing you're not going to read all the way through. This is why we read all the way through the news article. I know it can be time consuming sometimes, but it's very, very important to get the actual information. In one email, Summers gives Epstein his opinion of Trump early in his presidency, writing, DJT is the world's luckiest guy in terms of opposition, economy, etc. Still think his world will collapse? That sounds like a question. But they didn't put a question mark right there. A representative for Summers told the Wall Street Journal in 2023 that the former Treasury official and past president of Harvard University deeply regrets being in contact with Epstein after his conviction. Yeah, but do you deeply regret being in contact with Epstein before his conviction? See, that's fascinating how they word things. You gotta watch language, folks. These people are clever. Some of them are clever. We'll say that, because some of them not so much. But some of these people are very clever, and they can phrase their way out of just about anything. Right? So none of these people regretted. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying regret. But these people regretted after he gets convicted. What about before that? That you knew he was engaging in this, right? That's what it sounds like to me. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's what it sounds like. The documents also included the email exchanges between Epstein and his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking. In one email sent in 2011, Epstein writes to Maxwell, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. And they're doing it too. They're going to redact the name, even though we know that they're talking about Virginia Giuffre right there. And they put victim. But the news article, The Hill, that I covered the other day, that I don't know why they misspelled it. They put victim, like T-U-M, for some reason. But hey, it is what it is. Trump was a friend of Epstein's for years, but the president has said they fell out in the early 2000s, 2 years before Epstein was first arrested. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. While he was discussed in some of the messages released this week, he did not send or receive them. Exactly. See, the BBC's being kind of fair right here, because The Hill was not. They didn't make that statement at all. Traditionally, presidents do not direct the Justice Department to investigate individuals and companies, and have often brought in special counsels, independent attorneys from outside the administration, to carry out investigations. It is also rare for an administration to seek an investigation of a predecessor. However, the Biden administration started investigations tied to allegations that Trump tried to interfere with the 2020 election, which were then referred to a special counsel. The cases were dropped when Trump returned to the White House. You see how they are doing this right here, folks. You got to love these people. They are insinuating that Donald Trump is directing the Department of Justice. Even after coming out and letting you know that the source of the information is coming from the House Oversight Committee. That's where Trump got his information from. And I imagine that the House Oversight Committee sent a referral to the DOJ. But they're not going to tell you this, folks. We can go look these things up. I didn't think to do that, to be honest with you, so I don't know about that. But you can go and look these things up, or at least we'll find out in a little while if it's not there, right? Like I said, I didn't do it because I was doing some other research on this. But anyway, so once again, they are pretending that Donald Trump is orchestrating everything in the background, but he's not. Clearly. I mean, they're even giving us that information. They're just not telling us that information. On Friday, Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said it would be huge miscalculation for Trump to oppose the release of material related to Epstein. He doesn't oppose it. He never has, as a matter of fact. Greene was among the 4 other House Republicans, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Thomas Massie, who joined Democrats in signing the discharge petition calling for the release of the files. That I don't understand. I don't understand why the other Republicans are not on board with this. Like, I don't get that at all. All of a sudden, like, these are the same people that were yelling and screaming about the Epstein files over the Biden years, right? Ever since 2019, essentially, screaming about this. And we didn't get anything. And now all of a sudden they don't want to vote for this? That's fishy, right? It doesn't look good. But it's mostly because Democrats are screeching for this and they want to oppose Democrats any way they can. You can always tell a partisan by how they vote. They're very partisan, folks. Everybody in Congress is very partisan. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can put the blinders on, if you will, to facts sometimes. I truly just stand with the women, and I think they deserve to be the ones that we're fighting for. Sorry about that, y'all. She told the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News. I didn't know that. Huh, that's an interesting tidbit of information right there, that CBS is just an offshoot of the BBC. That's why they produce so much fake news, I guess. In a letter addressed to Congress, Epstein survivors and the family of Virginia Giuffre, a prominent accuser of his, called for U.S. lawmakers to vote in favor of releasing the files. As you gather with your family this season, remember that your primary duty is to your constituents. Look into their eyes. Look into the eyes of your children, your sisters, your mothers, your aunts. The letter reads. Imagine if they had been preyed upon. Imagine if you yourself were a survivor. What would you want for them? What would you want for yourself? When you vote, we will remember your decision at the ballot box. Ooh. Scary, right? This is so fascinating. Y'all, like, this whole Epstein scandal nonsense, right? Like, they are desperately trying to tie Donald Trump to this. They're even engaging in a little bit of impropriety in the background to try to smear Donald Trump. And all because that he was an acquaintance of Epstein, right? We've seen a lot of information that says Epstein didn't even like Trump, right? Epstein was probably mad at Trump, right? The dog that won't bark, right? That could mean several different things. Like, oh, he's not snitching, or he won't bite, in other words. That's what I think it might be. Trump is the dog that won't bark, blah, blah, blah. But it could mean anything. That's why that cryptic message doesn't mean a damn thing. And Democrats are putting this out, right? Go watch, like, CNN, MSNBC, all these other places like this, the opposition media or whatever. And they're like, oh, this is the death knell for Donald Trump. Oh, there's the proof. Look at this. Look, he's the dog that won't bark. That's proof that he engaged in untoward activities with underage girls or whatever on the island or whatever. Like, no, that doesn't mean a damn thing. Once again, that statement right there could mean all kinds of different things. We just have no idea. Once again, somebody even asked me the other day, what would it take for you to believe Donald Trump had engaged in? Like, I would need to see some evidence. Something. Anything. That's hard evidence that points to Donald Trump being improprietous, if you will, with these underage girls. Something, but there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And as a matter of fact, there is plenty of exonerating evidence. like Virginia Giuffre herself, that actually came out and said, Jeffrey Epstein's a bad guy, he abused me, Donald Trump had nothing to do with this as far as she knew. Donald Trump was one of the nicest people she had ever met. Blah, 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 blah. So, look, I'm sorry. You can sit there and believe that Donald Trump had anything and everything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. You can think that they were besties for Resty. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, we do not know. And I'm not going to sit there and engage in conspiracy theory over something that we don't know and will probably never find out. We're not going to figure out anything with any of this evidence, because once again, Democrats held on to this evidence for the whole 4 years of Joe Biden. They brought up fake charges to go after Donald Trump. Once again, I will say this hopefully for the last time. Why would they make up fake charges when they have a treasure trove of evidence with the Epstein files that they could go after Donald Trump for? You can't answer that. Then I don't want to hear anything from any of you people out there in the comment section talking about, oh, Donald Trump's a bad guy, blah, 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 blah. Like, show me some evidence that he's a bad guy. He's been caught up so many times, brought to court so many times, and exonerated every single freaking time, except for one. And that was falsifying business records. Ooh. And it was something that he didn't even do. It was his underlings that did it. So, do you have something on the man himself? No, you don't, as a matter of fact. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and all over the place, all at the same time if you could. And if you would be great if you guys would look right below the video, click that join button, sign up and become a member. That is the best way to help this channel expand and feed you some more content. That is right. That is right. But it's a wonderful day, y'all. It really is, because, 2,000 and something years ago, Jesus died on the cross to save us. And what's so great about that is he had no idea exactly how many people would be forgiven because of his actions. Or maybe he did know. And that's exactly why he done it. That's exactly why he did what he did. So fascinating, y'all. Because he didn't have to go through that. He absolutely didn't have to go through that. He could have escaped. He could have ran. Right? But he didn't. He put himself through that because he knew what was going to happen. He knew what he was doing. He knew he was washing away our sin so that we could be forgiven and have eternal life in heaven, y'all. It's just great. It's just, I don't know, I'm just awestruck whenever I think about that, to be honest with you. It's just so fascinating, y'all. But anyway, you guys, y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.